And I believe we're live. I think we're live. And we got one more person dropping in. We just started streaming on YouTube. So we are officially live. What's up, everybody? Another episode of the Union of the Unwanted. As you guys know, we attempt to do the show every other Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live streamed on our YouTube channel. Then you can find the video on Rumble soon after and the audio everywhere, also typically soon after. So definitely subscribe to us on all those platforms and like, comment, do all that stuff to help fight against the algorithms that usually suppress people like us. So that's it for the intro. The unionofthewanted.com if you want to find any other links for socials or anything else. And we kind of were brainstorming some things to talk about, some things to possibly brainstorm. I think I'm on the same boat as Clint, where since the Kirk assassination, I've been so deep in that rabbit hole of that it's kind of kept most of my focus. Clint, I mean, obviously you've been putting out podcasts, putting a lot of your own opinions and doing a lot of your own research. As this has this story constantly evolved, and where are you right now with your investigation?
Well, yeah, I'm the only thing I'm sure of is that I'm not sure of anything right now. I mean, for those that aren't aware, the judge issued a preemptive gag order against all future to be named witnesses to the event, which could amount to over 3,000 people having a gag order placed against them because that's how many people were witnesses to the assassination. So that obviously throws up a ton of red flags. I mean, to have it done preemptively, and to my understanding, it wasn't even with the prosecution or the defense's request. It was just the judge arbitrarily saying this. His background's very unique and interesting in the sense that he was also being Google searched, in the DC area and Israel a couple months ago. So there's so much weirdness with this. I mean, basically at this point, the only thing I'm confident of is that Charlie Kirk was in fact murdered. As far as who did it, even I was going to say who pulled the trigger. I'm not even sure, like 100% sure that he was actually shot. I do think that he was shot, but I'm not 100% certain. As to whether or not Tyler Robinson was responsible for it, it was some, Antifa furry, all that nonsense. I struggled to imagine it. And then I just want to also remind people that what they're alleging is that this kid who had no criminal history, uh, basically like very bright. I forget what his ACT or SAT scores were, but he like super bright kid. He pulls off this kind of, I mean, people say it's an easy shot, but it's not an easy shot when you're actually shooting at a human being for the first time in your entire life. And he does so and is up and sprinting within 3 seconds with what appears to not be a rifle. He has pulled off this miraculous getaway and then allegedly turns himself in, but also maybe he didn't. Maybe he was turned in because they were reached out to by either law enforcement and just said like, or family friend that said, basically your son is in jeopardy of being murdered by the police if he doesn't turn himself in, which screams, patsy angle on this thing. So I'm very nervous that he's going to get murdered in prison. To be honest, like I'm super nervous about that. I don't have any trust in the legal system. I certainly don't have any trust in the FBI, who's been just bullshitting us from the get go on this case, as far as I can tell. And secondarily, I've been absolutely disgusted by his friends and associates in his closest center circle, the Posobics of the world, who just keep repeating this cult like mantra of, I saw the leftist killed Charlie Kirk and I saw the left cry or celebrate it. It's like, you didn't see that though. Like, we all know that, right? Like, you definitely did not see that. Like, that may be what happened, but you didn't see it. So, yeah, I'm disgusted. I'm pissed. I'm angry. I want justice, not just for Charlie, but also because I'm way more radical than Charlie and I'm a little bit nervous about where this thing could be headed. So, I don't know. I'm curious what everybody else's thoughts are.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I
anybody
could
else?
just throw something in there. Charlie is someone that I knew going back to 2017. Really nice guy, someone I disagreed with on a lot of things. I think it was one of the most obvious shifts this year of many to push the country towards civil unrest. And I don't believe for a second that it was just the left or that it's just trans people or any of that. That's a narrative that everyone is going to go with. I just don't buy it. First of all, a big part of the psyop was how people would react to such an event. And obviously, as we've seen, and I've had family members post on Facebook laughing about the assassination. If they will laugh at that, as Clint was saying, he's way more radical, I'm way more radical, then they they're saying that it's okay if it happens to me or you. And that really shows the loss of soul and humanity in this very divided public. But the assassination itself was a huge red flag from the beginning. And I say red flag, I should also say false flag, because while I do believe that he died, I also see, as Clint mentioned, his associates, they're running on this narrative 2 days after or 3 days after he's dead. They're going on media, tours, claiming that everything the FBI says is 100% true, no questions asked, extremely nefarious, extremely suspicious. That if one of my good friends was murdered and their jugular was shot out in front of thousands of people, I'd want serious answers, and I would not trust what the FBI says. I will say, with people like Candace Owens putting out these texts, which she's getting attacked over, and I met Charlie the same day as I met Candace, and I had dinner with them back in 2017, and they were very different people at the time. But I have to say, she's under attack over this, and while there's many things I disagree with her on, these text messages are proven to be true, that he was saying that he's leaving the Israeli cause. And we know, if we look back at any political assassinations in US history, name one where intelligence agencies weren't involved. Name one. I mean, most of them, Kennedy, RFK, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, they all were admittedly intelligence agency operations later on down the road. Should we wait 50 years or 40 years to find out the truth? Or should the people that are doing the show for him now and leaving his chair empty, should those people be asking some serious questions, since history will record how they reacted? I believe this was a massive psyop. Regardless of how it happened, I do think that the narrative is to push people against each other. They want people as avid left-wing, avid right-wing within the paradigm, no shifting. And they utilize that in order to divide and conquer, and then order out of chaos comes with that. In fact, as much as I'm disgusted by people laughing about Charlie Kirk getting killed, I also have to point out that the people that are pushing this database on anyone that laughs about Charlie Kirk being killed, pushing this surveillance-based database to basically dox anyone that laughs at his death, I think that's extremely dangerous as well, and another Trojan horse. But yet, if it's on our side, we're going to sit on our hands and cheer it on and say, whatever, just, roll out the surveillance and keep eyes on everyone. Terrorism, left-wing, right-wing extremism. It's the same thing we see in places like Germany when they say, we have free speech, except if you're extreme right, we don't want to hear you speak and you could go to jail. But that's somehow free speech. It's doublethink, really. They're now pushing this on the other side, and it's only going to embolden the left, because look what happened to the right after years of the left censoring them. It emboldened them. So they're just creating two really hard lines on both sides, and I think it's extremely dangerous. And I know that at the end of the day is one of the biggest parts of this psyop.
Well, I knew I'd like Josh as soon as I saw Scott Horton's book behind him, Provoked. This is my people. So let me just add one other tidbit that I'm sure he's aware of but didn't mention. Andrew Colvett, who's the PR guy for TPUSA, he didn't just acknowledge that those texts were real. He said that he sent it to government officials. So in the moments after his buddy, Charlie Kirk, was murdered, he thought that those messages were pertinent enough that he screenshot it and sent it to government officials. I just want to really drive that point home, because that's what he said on his show, or when he was filling in for Charlie. That's unbelievable, and it flies directly in contradiction of what Josh Hammer had to say for weeks, as he was just calling Candace Owens a liar, and that Charlie had never been more in love with Israel, and this was total bullshit, and he was not ever going to leave the pro-Zionist, pro-Israel cause. All a lie. And I just want to really drive that point home, because it's like, this guy, who was also allegedly in his inner circle, Josh Hammer, actively, during a murder investigation, actively went on a media tour and actively lied about it. And people ought to be asking serious questions about that. Since the FBI certainly won't be pressing this, I guess it's up to us, because that is sketchy as all get out to me.
Anybody else want to? Charlie,
I'm
go ahead.
curious what Wheezy thinks. Because Wheezy usually comes at something, and I mean that with all due respect, Wheezy, because you usually are pretty good at coming at it from an angle that you have no political, leanings one way or the other. So you're a little bit more able to come at this from different angles. What are you looking at? Because for me, even if I don't know really what to look at, I'm just looking for, I don't know, unusual behavior patterns and things like that. Maybe if it's Ole Damagard, I'm looking for shoes and bicycles, right? But in this case, I'm looking for, why is there a World Wrestling Federation type party slash funeral like 2 days afterwards? That feels very gross to me, but I don't know. Maybe that in this world, maybe that's normal. Am I making a big deal of this? Like, where'd you come at this thing from?
So my biggest inspiration is the late great David McGowan, and for years now because I've been obsessed with David McGowan's work. I try to put on my David McGowan hat, and I'm looking for weird ass shit. That doesn't look real. That wouldn't happen in the real world. This looks off, and I did that with the Trump assassination attempt. That shit looked fake to me immediately. But I reserved judgment, did further research, and it just became more and more faker. The Kirk one appeared to me real. I didn't believe the official story right away. I was like, there's no way in hell, if this is real, that a lone gunman was going to make that shot from a distance away. Some things that immediately stuck to my head as a former EMT, I'm like, all right, he looks like he went out cold, but he's still gripping the microphone. That was kind of, that's strange. The massive blood loss from the neck as a former EMT kind of looked off. Then later I find out there's no exit wound, and people are buying this stuff and not even questioning a second time a magic bullet. It's like, no exit wound with a 30-06. The bullet is that goddamn big, and it's just gonna rest in his soft ass tissue on his neck. Get out of here, man. And so this is when I start looking at other things. I start seeing clips of the people behind him making weird signs. And then there's a guy in front of him acting like he's shooting something from his shoulder. And then there's another guy and there's like 4 or 5 different guys all around him at exactly the same time that the sound comes out that all look like they're kind of making a shot at him. I made a clip with 7Cs. 7Cs and I broke it down the very next day. And in that clip, we were kind of entertaining the idea of multiple shooters or a different shooter. That clip on Facebook, I never get any damn views on Facebook, man. I put my clips all the time. I get like 10, 15 views. That clip in 1 week got 1.2 million views. And that only confirmed to me that there's more bullshit to this, because Facebook, of all places, is probably the more censorious of all the platforms. And they allowed my clip that suggested multiple shooters to get 1.2 million views. I'm like, now I don't trust my original findings of multiple shooters. I'm like, man, this is even more bullshit. I'm a huge skeptic, man. I heard the first couple of guys say that they are radicals. If they're radicals, I'm a goddamn meth head, I guess, because I don't believe any of this shit, man. The widow doing some kind of pyrotechnic events a couple days after. And then when she gave her little speech right next to the casket, she's giving shout outs to this and shout outs to Turning Points USA. Then you find out she's got some sketchy tie-ins with child trafficking. All this shit doesn't make sense, man. And Charlie Kirk was someone that I kind of dismissed. My mindset, I look at anyone with a large following, I'm like, I don't trust y'all. There's some of y'all here I don't trust. I'm going to be honest, because there's PSYOP influencers all over the alternative media. And that's a damn fact. Now, do some of these people push purpose misinformation? Maybe they don't do it and they don't realize it, but there's some that I'm sure are doing it, and that's their damn job. And so Charlie Kirk, this young, strapping, handsome guy with the big old gums that can talk like a professional, this isn't organic, man. These guys go through some kind of academy. They're put on the limelight, and the narrative that it was Israel behind it, these are all shiny little objects to distract you from more nonsense going on. Now, is he alive somewhere, or did he actually get killed at some kind of ritual? I don't know. But I do not believe the whole story that's been pushed around, man, especially when you got Kash Patel and that attorney general from Utah talking about, we caught the guy 33 hours. It's right in your goddamn faces, man. They're making fun of you at this point in time. And people are arguing about this and that. Oh, it was Netanyahu and it was all this shit. It's all nonsense, man. And I agree with what the second individual said, though, that at the end of the day, what's important is that it's being used to drive more agendas. We're being wedged, and people on the left, the people on the right are saying, oh, look at all this left-wing violence. It's always the left-wing violence. And when the mainstream narrative is pushing some guy with gun, the little bullets were saying, if you read this, you are gay. They're laughing right in front of y'all, man. I don't know, man. I know I sound like a lunatic to some, but it's these little things. And I know Clint said he did a lot of research. I've done a lot of goddamn research as well. And none of the damn thing makes any goddamn sense. And that's just my take.
I agree that it doesn't make sense. I will say, at first I was thinking that there's a distinct possibility because of the shirt dynamics that launches up. I was like, all right, I think maybe, in fact, there was a charge underneath his shirt. And a lot of people were, the mic explosion theory. I've changed my opinion on that in large part because of Chris Martinson's work, which I think was excellent. And I do think that it was probably cavitation, and I do think that he was probably shot. But I don't think it was a 30-06 because I can't fathom that not just essentially decapitating him. So I don't know. That opens up the possibility for there being, the palm gun dude in the front and all that shit. And then it's just it's so nutty at that point. I just kind of throw up my hands and I don't know what to say about it.
That's the point, bro. That's the point. See, this is what I'm trying to get at. All those little things are distractions. It's like Matthew Crook being on commercials at BlackRock and all this. It's all shiny shit to keep you from realizing that there's way more fakery and fuckery afoot, in my opinion.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to add, I wanted to ask you, because you said you were an EMT. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Former EMT.
Yeah. So Martinson, or maybe it was someone else, was talking about how if this was an entry wound, which I still am not certain of, obviously, but if it were an entry wound, the reason that the blood comes out the way it does, as opposed to, it looks like it's carotid. So it would be spurting normally because as your heart pumps, you would have like actual projectile blood. That kind of just fell out. So the argument was essentially the cavitation event and the hitting of the spine. It paralyzed him instantly, shutting his heart off. And that's the reason that the blood essentially creates the cavitation. And then you just see the blood fall out. I'm sorry this is graphic, but I have to ask this question with specificity or else, it won't make any sense. So do you think that that's viable? That in fact, a bullet could have hit his spine, severed his spine, shut his heart off instantaneously. And that's the reason that you don't see it shooting out.
Yeah. When I first saw it, like I said, Seven Seas and I were talking about a show. We were instant messaging when this whole happened, and he's the one that alerted me to it. And I looked at it and I told him, if this is real, he's dead, because reports, if you guys remember, reports are saying he still might be alive, even 40 minutes, even an hour later. I'm like, there's no fucking way. If he's alive, this shit is faker than hell, because with all that blood loss, people don't realize you don't have that much blood in your entire body. And the amount of blood that we saw squirt out, that was pretty much most of his damn blood right there instantly. And so that's why I'm like, why was he still clutching the damn microphone? Basically with that amount of blood loss, your body just shuts down immediately. You've got no control or nothing. You know what I mean? So there's just so much that doesn't make sense. It's not just one or two things, man. There's so many parts that don't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, well, the argument that I was trying to present was that because he has his spinal column severed, essentially everything locks up at first, and apparently that's also there was brain damage from the cavitation. It just basically blew out a portion of his brain, which would have, or severely damaged a portion of his brain, which would have caused him to seize briefly and then collapse over. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. This is way above my pay grade. I'm just trying to figure it out, man, because I really think that if this is treated the same way that Butler was, where it's just like we're not getting any real truth here, we're just moving on. We still don't have a fucking motive. Like this kid came, if it's true, and I know you don't believe it is, but if it is true, then within centimeters, the president of the United States, former and future president of the United States, was nearly murdered in HD. And it's like no one has any interest in his motivations. Like we don't know anything.
Trump. Trump.
This is what I'm saying. So I'm just saying, like, if this, in my opinion, clearly was a real assassination when it comes to Charlie Kirk, and if we get the same treatment when it comes to that, well, then it's open season, man. Like people are just gonna go nuts. Like it's gonna start to be assassinations all the time, and I'm very nervous about it. I don't want to live in a country like that.
See, and I don't think it's just going to be like left or right wingers. I think we're dealing with intelligence agency operation that's happening before our eyes. I just want to throw in one thing that, Wheezy was talking about the people within like alternative media that are promoted. And I see a lot of that. We have mainstream alternative media. David Icke is right. And we have the mainstream media. The mainstream media is giving us one side of the story, and we have independent media giving us a precise other side of the story. And we have to look outside of that, because if algorithms are pushing certain theories to the top, they could be right, but I usually am very suspicious of it. One thing that is perfectly obvious to me is that the guy on the roof didn't do it. The 30-08 makes no sense. Like Clint said, his head would have been basically severed. It makes no sense what we saw. But I do want to point out that most of the information out there that independent medias are putting out that carry some truth to this, you're not going to see. It's not going to be recommended to you. You're not going to find it. You got to dig really deep. And I know a lot of people on this chat have been digging really deep, and I appreciate that, because it's something that was meant to traumatize a nation, and now we're supposed to pick this side or that side of the story and just waddle along and pretend like we know the truth. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more difficult to find the truth, because both mainstream and alternatives have been basically taken over at this point and are pushing whatever narratives that they're told to do or their donors are paying them to do. So it's important that we look outside of that and be okay with being called an extremist at this point. I think that being called an extremist is a badge of honor at this point.
It's so the new alternative media, I've been calling the new Laurel Canyon 2.0, in what David McGowan was, originally talking about a decade ago. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people are gravitating to the alternative media because a lot of people are realizing that they are not going to get the truth from CBS. They're not going to get the truth from NBC or Fox News. So, man, these other guys, some of which have come on the Union of the Unwanted, these guys are telling me truth bombs. And I'm saying, question everyone. Question me. Question everyone. Don't take anyone's goddamn word for it. Do your own goddamn research and verify everything, man. There's a lot of nonsense going out. And that's what we have to constantly be vigilant of.
And there's lies by omission as well, too. That's part of it. That's really the more devious and hard to quantify component of it. Is not, if you think the mainstream media is lying to you, and they are, so then you say, I don't want that. I want the better version of it. And then you wind up going into this category of mainstream alternative media, and you go, well, this has got to be better than the other. And it is better, of course, but it's not. It's still a different form of propaganda, and they tell you a certain segment of reality about the truth about this reality. They leave out a huge component, or they switch the name of it's China instead of Israel. It's easy to do. All you have to do is switch one variable, and then the whole narrative changes. So it's, this is a tough time to be paying attention, because you have to really filter your news, because if you think you're getting good high quality news simply because it's not coming from your television anymore, then you're walking into a trap. If it's a recognizable face like a Candace Owens or somebody like that, that's just a different repackaging of the television news. It's just the new version of it. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of landmines for people to step on when it comes to getting news.
Well, Charlie, you pointed out something that I think is very important here. When you have one of the biggest examples here that everyone should be learning from after the death of Charlie Kirk is the fact that Charlie Kirk was losing tens of millions of dollars in donors because he criticized Israel a couple times. That tells you everything you need to know. How much money are all these alternative medias getting from foreign countries and within their own country from major organizations? How much money are they getting if one guy can lose tens of millions of dollars in donations and donor money because he criticized Israel? Very basic criticism too. No, it's not like he even went as far as Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, and we all know he didn't go anywhere as far as most of us in this chat right now. So, I mean, and that says a lot. Again, he was someone that I considered an acquaintance, not as much a friend, but an acquaintance. I knew him for a long time, and I rabidly disagreed with him on things and called him out on the Israel thing, yet he just barely touches a line on the Israel issue and loses tens of millions of dollars of donors. That should say everything about people in alternative media and how much money is being passed around. If people stop watching mainstream media, they have to have the other apparati there available to give to people as their controlled opposition. And, you know, it's limited hang-up. It's the basis of a limited hangout. Tell part of the truth, not the entirety of the truth, in order to misdirect people from the truth. But you have all roads leading to Rome. You have a little fork in the road. Here's the mainstream, here's the alternative, then comes together up here and still leads you to the same place. I think it's extremely dangerous. And the Charlie Kirk assassination has actually exposed a huge part of this, which I've been chirping on, as you know, Charlie, for many years about. It's just opening the book on it in many ways. And it's amazing how many people still will look the other way on this. Hopefully more people start asking questions about where money's coming from, because if 95% of money towards mainstream media comes from big pharma, where's most of the money coming from in independent media? I know, as someone that's been in independent media for coming up on 19 years, and specifically the last 12, and once had one of the biggest channels or fastest growing channels on YouTube, watching it all go away because I would not take the money and I would not speak out of a teleprompter. And I've seen a lot of people I worked with go the other way, and I won't get into details on that today, but the point is, I know that this is a thing, and I know how hard it is to make money in alternative media. So this really does open the book. Tens of millions of dollars taken just for not criticizing a country. That says all you really need to know about how controlled we are on all angles of this, from the mainstream to alternative.
It's very gross.
Can I defend Candace and Charlie a little bit? Because I know it's an unpopular thing to do. You know, I'm not friends with Candace, and I've met Charlie, but I didn't know him at all. I would not say that he gave totally tepid criticism of Israel. You know, he on PBD very famously challenged the October 7th narrative, saying that he thought that there could have been a stand down order. That's hugely controversial for a guy like Charlie Kirk to say. I mean, it's nothing for any of us to say, but it's hugely controversial for him to say. So I thought that was very powerful. He also rabidly beat the drum to try and get justice for the Epstein victims. And I think that particularly could have been the trigger, because that was his, like, one of his major missions in the July timeframe. And based off of these searches, if you buy the validity of these searches, that the assassination was essentially being plotted during that period, it could be a direct response to that. It also simultaneously synced up with having Josh Hammer and Dave Smith debate at that TPUSA event, as well as having Tucker Carlson there. I'm actually friends with Dave Smith. I've talked to him about this a lot. We're both totally freaked out about that possibly being a motivation for, you know, Charlie being taken out. I mean, that's totally crazy if that played a role. So I just want to say, you know, I had terrible disagreements with Charlie Kirk, especially because I think that exactly what you described is what the role Charlie Kirk played. I'm going to give lip service to some of the more valid critiques that I hear from the anti-Zionist movement within the right wing to try and assuage their concerns and bring them back onto the plantation and to still vote for Donald Trump and all of his sycophants. That's my opinion as to what the role Charlie Kirk was playing is, personally. But regardless, he was murdered. And I think it may have been because of the, you know, very mild criticism that he did levy. And that's crazy to me. And then additionally, I just want to say briefly, I think Candace Owens is essentially a shock jock, and she's doing a lot of like clickbait garbage that is essentially not just valueless, but actually detrimental to the cause of truth and justice when it comes to this case. And I don't appreciate that. However, she has brought to light some things that are true and extraordinarily valid. I mean, for her to prove out that Josh Hammer actively lied about those text messages was, I mean, maybe the biggest break in this case so far, honestly. So I just wanted to give her, a small tip of the cap for that.
And I'll go ahead, T. My bad, bro.
I personally studied 9/11 something like 5 years or so while being an activist on the subject. And I went through layers of progression in my understanding of the system as a result of that. You start thinking that it's the Bushes, and then, oh no, it's Cheney and Rumsfeld and blah, 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 and eventually Operation Northwood. And then eventually, from there, you realize the Gladio infrastructure, Gladio B sort of setting up of the kind of like theatrics of arousing public sentiment in one way or another. And then you think of how much energy and time people have, and that this is a war of attrition. And if you simply elongate a conversation, you win the war by getting people to invest a disproportionate amount of energy into every single step of the theatrics. And a big part of the theatrics is making it so that it's real. Whether that means that it is real or it feels real, either way, it has to come with that depth of feeling to it. It has to be immersive, it has to be engrossing, and only then do they get our attention enough so that we tune in for the sequel, whatever that happens to be. We're on the defense, we're on the response. That's what the conversation is. It's us participating in a long form PSYOP, which is a connection of dots of different PSYOPs, each of them respectively legitimate in their own way, because Kirk likely was murdered. I don't know. I don't really have an inclination to say one way or the other. But my underlying contention is that this is a larger orchestrated sequence of PSYOPs, which is ultimately a distractive affair. And the longer we linger over any of them, it's kind of like Karl Rove was talking about. We're an empire now. We create the future, and then you spend the years. And this is a terrible quote of him, but talking about we create the future now. We create the reality, and you spend years trying to figure that out and understand what it is. It's just that all over again.
And real quick, man, for some people that are probably having a hard time fathoming that a lot of this could have been staged or manufactured, there's tons of incidents we can point to. The moon landings, the Gulf of Tonkin, a completely manufactured event that led to Vietnam and who knows untold deaths that happened there. Weapons of mass destruction, a complete and utter lie that cost 1 million Iraqi lives that no one talks about today. These things are manufactured all the time. So when I talk about the Trump assassination being fake, oh my God, that couldn't be fake. Or the Charlie Kirk stuff, a lot of these weird anomalies. Oh, no, not that. They fake shit all the damn time. It's a psychological operation that goes on. And that's the point of a psychological operation, is to get you up in arms, man, at each other's throat. That's the entire point of it. So that's all I wanted to say. And I'll shut up. Sorry, well, Ricky.
I've heard this argument from both of you guys many times, because I run in the conspiracy world. So I sincere question to you guys. Is it not to our benefit to try and actually find out what happened, particularly when the public's interest is laser focused on a case like this? Could that not unwind the PSYOP if you were to actually discover and prove in real time that, in fact, Tyler Robinson didn't do it, or he was employed to do it by intel agency, ABC, whatever? I just think that would be hugely valuable in waking up, I don't know, 50 million people or something. So you guys make it sound as if it's a waste of time to be talking about it, and I'm just not sure that it is.
Okay, no, it's a valid point, and you can think of like some people will come to truth from avenues that others might deem just a complete waste of time to go down those roads, So it's totally valid. If people find discrepancies in the story on this one, similar to investigating 9/11 or Boston bombing or any number of the different PSYOPs that have unrolled over the years, if they garner insights into the shoddy infrastructure of the just stage like production that's going on, then it's profoundly important. So when people are doing those real and worthwhile investigations into it, it's important that we not be doubling down all of our energy respectively. You'll find that certain things like this will become such an epicenter of public attention that it just becomes a conveyor belt of updates. And that's one of those things that it's sort of like hijacked to then co-opt and infuse at the discretion of the establishment. It isn't about wholly creating things. It's also about co-opting and sort of building off the coattails of what we're willing to lend our attention to.
And just a real quick, my answer to that is, I agree with you. Of course, it's worthwhile to find the damn truth, but sometimes you're never going to get it, man. It's how long has it been since JFK and we still don't have the goddamn truth? They're still kicking the can down the road. I'm a Lincoln assassination researcher and I modeled myself after David McGowan. People still believe goddamn Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln in a damn theater. End of story. We were lied to about that shit from 160 years ago. We still don't have the goddamn truth, man. So I get your sentiment, but sometimes we're never gonna get it, man.
Oh, yeah, no disagreement there. And this certainly could be the case. I mean, there's so many different viable options and opportunities to be the shooter or be some device that explodes or whatever, that it is very hard to know. I guess like the main point I'm trying to make is because there is so much technology that was on hand at that event, there's a distinct possibility that we can get clarity on this one. I mean, it's not impossible. So I just think that that's valuable. I agree, though, the conveyor belt of updates and the algorithmic boost that gets definitely can lead to really shoddy work and ultimately a total waste of not just my time, but the audience as well. But I want to really emphasize this. I am deeply concerned that if a political commentator, especially a fairly mild one like Charlie Kirk, is able to be assassinated and there is genuinely a cover up and there is no justice to be found, this is a very dangerous country moving forward. And it's not as if we weren't already in a dangerous country, but I'm just saying, like, this is a mild, middle of the road political commentator being murdered in cold blood in front of 3,000 people. And if you can't get justice on that, well, then fucking forget about justice for anybody else.
I agree with that sentiment completely. The idea that we're like in a post-justice world and it's sort of just like a superficial glotz that's been painted on so that we can continue to comply. But I'll just throw out a different perspective. It's like, that's a dangerous world if it's like that. It's also a dangerous world if everyone who has any significance in the depth or the degree which they're willing to probe these questions. I'll throw out like Corbett or Grove as an example. Those people can't be put on a public stage where they should be raised up to a point of speaking prominently on these issues going back into history, because that would actually have a major effect on everybody's conversation. So we're living in a world where everyone's slow censored in a way in which prominent figures like that aren't able to take center stage, and everyone pretends that that's just totally like comfortable and cool, and then major like large emotional events will happen and we'll all fall into fold about that while kind of just shrugging our shoulders about, wait, why isn't like everybody just like kicking the mic to Corbett and then this would be over pretty quick? Isn't it really simple? Why are we doing just the next click on the emotional thing? Why does it always run that late? And then that's one of those things where you think, well, what if we were actually synergistically cooperative in the conversation that we had in a similar way into the alternative media that's, fake and co-opted? That bracket bumps each other up, the not so obvious establishment, whatever terminology you want to use for it. Everyone has their own kind of like slang, but they're all doing this synergistic cooperative conversational bumping stuff. I'd go out there to give a fist bump to Grove or Corbett. How are we living in a world where that's censored and we're all paying attention to mainstream stuff, whether it's real or fake? That's a more terrifying reality to me, because that's the reality that we're in. And it's like, oh my God, how are the legit voices not getting amplified the most? Oh, because they'd have to go on a public stage and have a gigantic psyop like assassination, be it real or fake, done in their honor? No, I think everyone's going to pass on that one. If that's the requirement in order to be like the main conversation point in the public stage. But that's the reality. If it's not on that level, you're not going to get everybody clicking on it.
Are you talking about Richard Grove?
Oh yeah. No, I know you know him, Clint. Like he's a friend of yours. I'm saying, that level of caliber of conversational individual who lends the full depth of their life, almost being assassinated themselves, and all of like the forensic history that they've done in order to be able to really just like fully go into it on every level. So it's like, what the fuck? How the fuck is that kind of thing low and this kind of thing high? I don't get that.
Well, I agree with that critique and that complaint. I share it. I'm in a weird position of being like, I'm friends with Richard Grove and I'm friends with Ian Carroll, and like Ian Carroll has massive algorithmic love in a way that very few people have ever seen ever.
How do you define Fred? I'm just curious. Like,
well, I mean, I've met him a couple times and we've hung out and we've, he's done my show, and I don't know. As much as you can be a friend with someone on the internet, I don't know. But the same with Richard. Essentially, I don't even know if I think I've met Richard in person one time, but he's done my show a couple times. Actually, he watched one of my latest updates on the Kirk assassination on my show and texted me and said, you're fucking spot on, dude. You're crushing it. So I took that very seriously. I was like, that's awesome that Richard Grove said that. That's killer. And then Ian Carroll was also posting my episode. So I have both of these guys. So I just want to say, it's a weird world. And then Dave Smith is boosting me too. So it's like, I don't know how to describe it. I feel very fortunate, but also then I get looked at side eye by Wheezy, thinking like I'm some fucking op because of it. So
well, I'll just say this kind of finally. It's like we are sort of all in conversational orbits, and it's like I've co-hosted Grand Theft World and 5 times or so, and Charlie has like a dozen or more times. So it is one of those interesting things where it's those folds. I'm just saying I want to see the depth of that unfold, and this still feels like a superficial lure. That's it.
I hold the record, I think, for being the longest episode of Grand Theft World. I co-hosted, and it was like 8.5 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, sounds about right. Thank you for breaking up this sausage party, Courtney. How are you? What's cooking?
I'm good. Crazy busy. I don't think I can stay on too long. Our book is coming out November 1st. It's like, actually, we already have the ISBN number going on sale on Amazon.
What is it? Tell us about it.
Okay, so I'm co-authoring with Patrick Wood, and it's on technocracy. It's called The Final Betrayal. That's what it is right now. But it's on kind of how like they've hijacked the spirit of trilaterals over Washington. I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, but it's kind of about like the whole dark enlightenment infiltration into the Trump administration. And
awesome.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll wake some people up and maybe we can get some pushback.
That's great.
So that's it's soon. So I'm in the process of just like editing and the footnotes and all that. So crunch time, and I'm in the middle of an article. I've got an episode tomorrow with I don't know if for those of you who haven't been following my whole Game B thing, I have an episode. It's not going to be live, but I'm recording with Jordan Hall tomorrow. So I just actually called out Jim Rudd today. So I'm in the middle of working on an article exposing his recent Substack articles. So it'll be interesting, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's kind of, and I actually have another one that I'm working on that ties in this whole Charlie Kirk with some Game B stuff, some military operations, but I don't have enough to, do a big reveal on it right now, but it's it should be interesting. But it'll tie
I've been
republishing
some of your articles over on Activist Post. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Well, you're doing a great job. Thank
you.
Josh, before you drop off, didn't you say you need to run? Plug what you're working on and where people can find you before you leave, please.
World Alternative Media on X. They gave me my YouTube channel back for some reason a few months back. I have no idea why. It was 5 years banned, and they suddenly gave it back, and now they're taking down almost every video I post on there. I don't know how long that'll last, but I don't want to promote that. I'll promote BitChute and Rumble, World Alternative Media. And even though X is owned by a technocrat who wants to use all of our information for the future Internet of Things, I still urge people to follow me on there while I'm still on there. World Alternative Media.
I gotta run too. Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Clint. Thanks for coming out. Thanks, Josh. Josh, am I going to see you at Acapulco in 2026 PV?
Well, yeah, it's taking place down the street from me. So if I'm not there, then there's something seriously wrong.
If you're not there, I'll go to the police station to find you.
I might be there. Who knows? Things get crazy here sometimes, but I'm looking forward to that. And I look forward to seeing you. And it's always a great conversation on here. So I'll try to poke in for a little bit longer next time you do a show.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out. Good to see you. Ricky, what are you up to? What's been cooking with you?
Oh, we're getting off the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yeah, I mean, there's I mean,
no,
we can, let's just break it up in 2 parts, right? Let's just do first half Charlie Kirk, second half.
Let's get Tony's opinion on pepperoni on pizza. That's okay. But how about pineapple? Is pineapple okay?
No.
Hey, well, let Tony, because Tony is new to the show. Let Tony introduce himself. I mean, obviously, he's been on one of the biggest comedic shows on the planet, Kill Tony, of late, and really, he's been on the Ripple Effect podcast recently, and we talked a little bit about censorship and whatnot, and all these things. And I think comedy is one of the few places where it seemed like it was, you get people kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. And I mean, as a comedian, Tony, I mean, I guess you can introduce yourself, but then as a comedian, I mean, what's your opinions on that? Do you think that comedians are help, because Tim Dillon's done great work with like just being funny while being outspoken, and doing both at the same time is sometimes difficult.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to do that yet. Um, I've been doing comedy for like 6 years. I'm not an expert on pretty much anything. Um, but yeah, freedom of speech, that's that's very it's very important, you know. Um, you got YouTube. They were taking everybody's videos down, a few years ago. Now they're supposedly letting people, post stuff again, but none of it seems nothing seems safe. You know what I mean? Everything seems like it's kind of you know, um I guess I don't know what's going on anymore. I heard a quote, I forget where I heard this, but it's like the devil is trying to make it, his agenda is to where nobody will know what's real anymore. And kind of after the Kirk assassination, that was the first time I was like, okay, I don't know what the hell's going on. I can't put this in any kind of a box. You know, they got AI pictures, or you could take AI and you can turn a picture into a video, so you can make AI crowds, that different political parties would have, fake crowds of people they would hire. Now they can just use AI to do that. And it's like, I don't know, this technology is available to us right now. How long did this exist? Uh, how long has the government had this? Um, if it's only available to us now. Um, so yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm kind of rambling.
All the more reason to go see people live and in person. You know what I mean? To go to live events, to go see stand-up comedy, to go to Third Eye Carnival, to go to an Acapulco, to go to the events that are in your area, to go to Bohemian Grove or whatever, that's out there. I mean, get out there. They can fake it all on the internet, but they can't fake that human experience of being out there and having that interaction. And all at the same time, you're kind of voting with your dollars and voting with your energy, your physical energy, by being out there and doing that. And I don't know. I'm a believer in getting out there and going to those things in person if you can.
100%. I got a question for Tony, actually. I saw a major proliferation of those Sora AI deepfake videos. Do you think that's part of a bigger plan with comedy, or do you think that's being put in front of us to show us on purpose? Like, what do you think that overwhelming proliferation has been like the last month or so?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to. I mean, I assume that they were just trying to get people to use it so they have more data to make it more realistic or whatever. But yeah, it's to the point where it's like, you don't know what's real unless you go and you see it yourself. Um, Seems like there's a lot of psyops, and you can't tell what might be a psyop, what might not be a psyop anymore.
But for the sake of comedy too, do you think it cheapens the art form for you? Or do you feel like it kind of expedites like the prompts with which you would put together a bit?
Yeah, for that, I guess I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle ground on that. Because you can use AI to make like really um, amazing music. But I feel like there's some things that AI can't, like you have to be very original, I feel like, to not be um, uh, just copied. Um, and then, but I think there's also some there's something to whatever the creativity that you put into a prompt, and basically like creativity being just you have an idea in your head and you want it to exist, and it's like use whatever uh tool or process to make that happen kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of back and forth on that.
Like a meme.
How about
You know,
this?
a meme is like takes comedic timing and punchlines, and you know, there's a lot of the way you craft a meme. Sometimes you look at it and you go, God damn, like you stand in appreciation of how awesome it is. You know, just in 1 second, it basically conveys a message of how you feel, or just the look on somebody's face. And that's a skill, that's a talent. Like some people are better at that than others. As they say, the left can't meme, and that is their Achilles heel. They have a lack of sense of humor, and it's something that I think that whether you're right, conservative, anarchist, whatever, your ability to laugh at the preposterous nature of this, I think, is good for you psychologically. I think it's good for you when it comes to messaging. It makes you sound less crazy. If you're able to kind of laugh at it all, you know, you don't sound so wired up. Like the leftists at the rally, they seem unwell. You know, they seem very unwell, very unhappy. But if you're able to kind of laugh, if you're out laughing at it all, it's very disarming. And of course, the left cannot fight back against that at all. They don't know how to, you know, like the Reddit piranhas just destroy them, you know, because they just have no sense of humor, no ability for self-reflection or whatever it is. And so, you know, it becomes your comedy, the way you deliver the message. I think it's evolving. I think it's not just, you know, maybe it used to be that you had to stand up, that you had to go do comedy, do stand up for 10 years to get good. Maybe now this is like the equivalent of online, what online poker did to the physical poker world, which it ramps it up like 100-fold, and you get good really fast because you're doing it a lot. That might be the same component to this new digital form of comedy, where it's like memes and AI videos, and you convey a message in a totally different way. And maybe it's the angle that, you know, the face swap technology that I forget his name, who he was doing, like doing the Joe Biden.
Out Dunnigan.
Kyle Dunnigan was doing. It was fucking hysterical and really creative. And you see how it can be done in a way that's disarming and fun. Now you could go, oh, this is bad technology, blah, and I get that. And of course we have Courtney here who wrote a book with Patrick Wood, so we don't need to get her started on the technocracy and all that. But if you just take it from a comedic standpoint, you look at it, you go, that's really clever. And so I think that there are some opportunities for people that harness this technology, that understand the prompts better than other people, and can.
I'm not anti-technology, by the way. I'm all for leveraging technology. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to put that out there.
That's a good
leverage
point.
Technology. Don't outsource your cognition, but leverage it.
That's a great point too. Like this is a tool. You know, it depends on whose hands it's in. It's just like the gun argument. Is AI good or bad? I don't know. It depends on what you need it for. I mean, if it's at the very bare minimum, it can make you lazy, you know, if you lose your ability to think or whatever, and that's not good. But you could do some good shit with it. You could do some interesting things with it, I'm sure. And so I don't know if I want to be such a Luddite and say like, it's all bad all the time. Like, no, there's got to be some ways that, like, if we can't prevent it, and we can't, let's be honest, then we got to learn how to work with it in a way where we're not getting like hit straight in the face, or we're keeping our kids away from what. I think we got to be honest about like where this is going.
Well, the comedy is the truth bomb. You know, that's what Sam always says, is leveraging his honesty by getting people to trust him through his jokes. That's going to be the way moving forward. Authenticity is going to be the currency. I did have one quick question for Tony too. Your experience being down at Kill Tony, you know, a lot of guys, like I know the Nephilim Death Squad guys have talked about, you know, Rogan kind of being this kind of leader of the, you know, Laurel Canyon of today's podcasters. What do you feel? Do you feel like a different energy when you go to the mothership? Does it feel different than any other room or club you've played in across the country?
I honestly don't have enough like I've done most of my comedy in Austin. So I don't have a lot of experience about, you know, what the big differences are. I don't know. It seems like there's like people crying about Austin versus New York versus LA. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm just trying to
Just trying to
sell
make.
t-shirts.
Hey Tony, if you need the artist for some t-shirts, hit up Alex.
Yeah, make it
Okay,
happen. I got designs.
perfect.
He painted this up here. But yeah. Well, AI. Well, let's get into it a little bit because AI is a good transition because it is something that I just we can't avoid thinking about, talking about, and I think a lot of these things they evolve so slow, and well, I mean it's not really evolving slow, but I think the general public it's evolving slow enough where they're not panicking. But some of us who like zoom out and can see the end game and can kind of see all these possibilities on all the possible things that could go horribly wrong are like, hey, we should talk about this. Where are we going? Where is this leading? And so this morning, I was getting the kids ready for school, and they had my wife had the news on in the back, and I never watch the news, but apparently there are some conversations about AI and the dangers of it on the news. They were talking about two different stories about kids who committed suicide because of Chad GPT was one of them. I forget which AI the other one was using, but one of them was like literally talking to Chad GPT about suicide, and then they shared some of its responses, like it was saying like you don't owe your parents like having to tell them this. You don't like it was weird responses, almost like they were motivating the kid to go ahead with it, which was like I'm like, okay, is this accidental? This can't be accidental. This can't be. This seems it just seemed a little weird. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, anytime you're working with technology, there's going to be a glitch. There can be whatever. But we also don't trust anybody who's involved with ChatGPT and OpenAI, and so it seems a little weird. And so that was like one of the dangers, of course. Like, and there's another story about a kid who got attached to. There's a website called Connect AI or something like that, where you can connect with, I guess, fake people, fake AIs, and for people who, I mean, the same way maybe a lonely person gets a cat or a dog, you can get an AI character and talk to them, and so so those are some of the dangers of it, right? And but I guess you can make the argument. Like when they invented the gun, the first person that accidentally got shot, you could argue like, hey, like we should ban all guns because look how dangerous this weapon is. And so, like Courtney said, like we shouldn't ban everything. I mean, it can be a tool or it can be, something else, something dangerous, but it's up to us to be responsible and, understand it and try to figure out how we can better our lives if that's possible and in some way maybe prevent or slow down any negative effects that can have on society. But, and then this goes into like everything's evolving so quickly can we even as humans like keep up with the transition that we're living through right now and stay
I want to say, oh, sorry.
no
I was just
go
going
ahead.
to say a couple of things and then I will have to go. But so I agree, like we shouldn't necessarily ban it. I think my biggest concern definitely is with children. That's where I would start. I do think children, there is no reason for children to be certainly like training AI under, sixth grade. Like there's just no reason for it. Now I did an article actually on this where they're selling these little plushy dolls to them. One of them is Grok, and actually Grimes, the Elon's baby mama, is the voice of it, and she's actually behind the company Churio. So yeah, I would definitely, they're data mining the children, and it's not just data mining, it's a cybernetic feedback loop, right? They're programming the children. That's the whole principle behind the tech ed too. The social emotional learning is using tech ed to data mine the children and then program them. This is to create global citizenship and to create, essentially cogs in a like technocratic workforce. I think that should really be pushed back again. That's a huge part of what the school choice initiative is all about as well. A lot of people don't, connect the two, but that is largely what school choice is all about. It's making all schools, government schools. It's not about choice. You have a God-given right to teach your children and educate them as you see fit. That you already have that choice. School choice is not about that at all. It's absolutely about this public-private partnership agenda with technology. It's all about technocracy. So I would say with children, I would be cautious. I don't think children should be using AI, especially not while their brains are developing and forming, while they're learning to speak and, write and read and all of that. That it's like giving them a calculator before they've learned basic math. I think that's going to be, I think it's way worse actually, but that's just an analogy. It's
I
going to
agree.
be a huge problem. Yeah, so with adults, I think it's very different. I do think that adults can use AI as a tool, but they have to use it as a tool, not outsource their cognition. There's a lot of discussion about the schism that's going to occur economically as a result of AI, right? And Elon's talking about his universal basic income. That's going to be a universal high income, right? It's going to be so much abundance. It sounds nothing like Technocracy Inc., with their economic response to the Great Depression. But he's talking about how it's going to be a high income for everyone, but it's of course not. It's going to be a conditionally based income, basically a social credit kind of system. But that's definitely something to be, pushing back against. However, I am also really concerned about the cognitive schism that will occur. There are a lot of people who are already outsourcing all of their thinking to AI, and that is largely problematic. They're showing a huge decline in memory, like a basic executive cognitive function as a result of outsourcing to AI. They're already seeing that, and it hasn't even been around that long, and we're already seeing statistical significance in that regard. And people say, oh, well, memory is not that important, but there's a reason why memory is a large portion of IQ. It's not everything, but the reason it is such a significant portion is you can't have pattern recognition if you don't remember something. So what's happening is people think they don't need to remember things because they can just look it up. But that means that when you now see something, you can't connect the dots. You can't layer. You can't integrate data points. You can't build on top of knowledge you already have because you've outsourced all that. Oh, I don't need to know that. I'll just look it up. So I would encourage people really use it as a tool. It can be a very useful tool, but do not outsource to it. But there are areas where it is very concerning, like they're doing all the climate smart commodity projects. They're using it to now MAHA is all about MABA, which is Make America Biotech Accelerate. This is why he's pushing the wearables. The health system is largely creating this infrastructure for data mining people, which anything they can data mine and anything they can collect the information on, they can then control you. And of course, now they're pushing the Genius Act, the Stable Act, the Clarity Act. They've already signed the Genius Act, but it's creating a regulatory infrastructure for this digital currency, which they claim is not central bank digital currencies, but I would argue the Congress-backed digital currencies are actually worse. It's like all the worst of the central bank digital currency, and then on top of it, it doesn't have the transparency and it's being controlled by these private, companies, which aren't really private companies. They're like supranational, international conglomerates that are partnered with NGOs and once they get control, that just means they have no transparency and they have complete control. So once that could be tied to your biometric data, think about the kind of surveillance and programming that they could have over you. So I think there's things people need to do locally to push back against some of this infrastructure that's being created. So that's it. There's
Can I
a lot
tell you
more I could say, but
one thing
yeah.
that I saw this week that was such a simple little fix that I am going to definitely steal? Makia Freeman, who's been on the show before, he's an author and researcher. You can go to thefreedomarticles.com and find his work. He sent me a pre-release of his new book. And before you even get to the title, there's a page that says, there was no AI used in the creation of this book, not for research purposes, not for writing purposes, not for art creation, nothing. And I was like, oh, that's really smart. And then he says, I hope this will inspire others to put this designation at the beginning of their books moving forward. And I was like, you know what? 100%. I'm definitely going to do that, because there's something, I think we're moving into a new world where it's like pre AI research and post, everything has got like an asterisk next to it, because like you just kind of don't know. Is this really the answer, or is this what some asshole on Reddit thought 10 years ago that it's pulling from, like I don't know where the source is. So I think that this is one of these things where we got to be careful we're not walking into some trap.
Right.
Well, using AI as a tool is really no different than having a cigarette for your health. It really fucks with your brain, and various studies, peer-reviewed studies, have shown that. It makes people lazy. People don't want to look shit up anymore, like you were just saying. Where are they getting this information from?
That's not using it as a tool, though. There is a difference. So, people who are,
Can I finish?
Yeah, we'll find the balance there somewhere for sure.
There is like, you can. So I'll give you an example. I was doing some research this morning. I went through 4 different AIs. I literally had arguments with the AI. I'm having arguments with bots, so call me crazy, whatever you want to call me. But I finally was able to. You have to know what you're doing in order to have that argument, because otherwise you're just taking it at face value. And I'm like, no, they're lying.
How do you know you know what you're doing though? What do you think you know what you're doing? I'm serious. How do you know?
How do I know what I'm doing?
Yeah. You said you have to know what you're doing to have these conversations. How do you know you're doing the right things?
Well, there's a big difference between having a very informed kind of where you're trying to find something and just taking a blind answer, right? So I'm collecting multiple sources and comparing them up against each other. And I can see, I would have to, like, it would be a long story for me to explain exactly what it was, but what I could see is that they're scouring there. So what it does is just an aggregate, right? So it's aggregating, and it takes things as face value because it's a language model. Mm-hmm. So it can't tell if let's say, the author or whatnot is being deceptive, right? It can't tell if it's using Aesopian language and it's using Veilcraft. The learning language model can't tell that because it's just taking the language as face value. But if you understand the material, you could use what they're giving you, and you can go back and forth to try and find some more information. But if you just take things as face value, you can't do that. So there's a very big difference between, I just want to clarify, there's a huge difference between using something as a tool, and no, it doesn't rot your brain to use something. Using a calculator, if you know how to do basic math, when you're doing advanced math, it expedites it. It doesn't make you stupider. It just doesn't. But if you never do basic math and you're just using it then it does, and you will lose that skill. So there is a difference, and I think that should be clarified. And if you never want to use AI, don't use AI. I'm not telling you should. Like I just wrote a book on technocracy. I'm very concerned about it. But I'm actually very, but I just want to make the distinction. There is a distinction between using something as a tool and leveraging it and just outsourcing. So that's all.
The biggest issue I have is that a lot of these things have a huge convenience element to it. Why do most people stay on YouTube despite a lot of their creators being banned and whatever? They always want to be on YouTube. I can't find you on YouTube. Because YouTube has this nice interface. It's a convenience factor to it.
Brand loyalty.
And you try some of these other platforms like Odyssey, for example. It's clunky as hell. It is free speech, but no one wants to use it because it's harder to use. Rumble. AI has this convenience element to it. It makes things easier for you. It reduces the thinking, blah, blah, blah. That's exactly the trap for it.
Yeah.
People don't want to talk about that part.
Yeah, 100%. Well, like to Courtney's point, it still requires, if you're going to combat some of the general consensus with the AI in aggregate, you got to compare them, pit them against each other, and see which one, fights out the day, and still use your critical thinking and scientific method to poke holes the way you would do in an academic environment. You're still poking holes at the technology. It's still got to work for you.
I got a question for you guys because we're all creative. We're all obviously we host shows. We're artists. We're comedians. Uh, how how much AI have you guys used in your daily work to try to improve it? Because as you guys know, first time in like 10 years, I started releasing music again. And the way I got to find time to do it is because when I started my solo, when the band broke up, a band I was in broke up, and I started doing solo music, it was super time consuming. Like literally, I have to play. The only instrument I don't really play is drums, but I know how to use a drum machine. So I would use drum machines, and then I would record the guitar, then the bass guitar, then the keyboards, then record the vocals, and I would do it all, and then not like the way it sounds, and maybe have to re-record things and whatnot, or do a bunch of takes because I wasn't singing on a regular basis, so it was hard to get my voice to sound good. So it was. I mean, it would take me months and months and months and months to record one song. And then actually it was around the time that Tony Pepperoni and I chatted. I started messing around with AI for music generating. And I was kind of just curious. I was more like, hey, I wonder, how this could help me if I wanted to like start creating music again. Because it like most of us, like we're creative, we're constantly coming up with ideas in our heads, and I'm always like, oh, I got all these ideas for music, but I just don't have the time. I'm one of those people that like once I start something I get OCD about it, and I just don't have time to be OCD on anything else that I'm already not OCD'd about. Oh, go ahead, Courtney.
I'll just tell you, and then I will have to go. But I'll tell you that I'm on my 6th YouTube channel. They did give me back my old one, my first one. By the way, they said that I violated nothing. I do not violate anything.
Never tell you.
They just they just decided to nuke me 6 times, by the way. But because of the copyright issues, we've started using AI for the music. And I don't, my husband does it, and he's come up with some really great stuff, but it's a way that we can get around it. And yeah, so now I joke about him being, like a super talented music artist now because of AI, but he made some good songs. Again, yeah, that's been helpful because we've been able to, get around some of this copyright stuff because you can use it. But yeah, there's some
Yeah,
cool stuff
well,
you can do.
the other thing too is like I feel like it still requires creativity, right? So like
Of course.
if I used AI, because the one thing it can't do is it can't create. It really just kind of takes things that have already been created, other ideas,
Yes.
and it just kind of generates them and puts them together. So I feel like it can be used for, so like I just released a new song called Artificial Ripple, and I obviously use the word artificial because I use artificial intelligence to help me do some of the parts in the song. And
Good.
and like it was phenomenal. It came out awesome. It took me 1% of the time it would have took me to actually do everything manually. And but yet even, when I was doing parts, I'm like, oh, I still have to manually do this. I have to put it in Pro Tools, do that because it kind of gets me there, but it's not quite there. And then recently I'm just like, hey, let me see how it does for lyrics. And I asked it to write a song. It sucked. The lyrics were awful. Like I'm just like, oh, this isn't. So I would assume with comedy, same thing. Art, kind of same thing, where it's like it lacks a sense of creativity that you just can't. It seems like well, at least for the time being, you can't really recreate. But maybe it can get you a starting point, or if you get creative with the tool, you can, but it still requires creativity, right? In internal human
Totally.
creativity. If you get creative with the tool, you can make something that seems authentic. Like some of the music I've been and by the way, my music's out now on Pandora, Amazon, iTunes, all that stuff. It's called Theory 6. And actually the Artificial Ripple song that I actually put the title, I snuck in the title of this podcast in one of the last verses, but it was amazing how authentic it sounded. Like I kept messing with it, trying to structure it different, find the right tone voice I wanted, find the right melody, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, it almost like I was moved by it, like I sang it because they're my lyrics, so I have emotional connection to it. But like it even the breathing, right? So they would even put like if you use artificial vocals, they'll even put breathing in between like when they think you would be breathe, so to make it sound real. It's wild because I remember like not too long ago, I feel like a year or two ago, I was listening to some like made up artificial intelligence music, and it sounded very artificial, and now it's starting to sound real, and it's starting to sound less artificial, and even the videos, when you started to first see artificial videos, you could spot it immediately, like almost immediately. You're like, that's definitely fake, that's definitely fake. And now it's starting to get slightly more difficult. Not to say that I mean, I don't know if we'll get to the point where or I should say we probably will, but I don't know if we'll be alive to get to the point where we literally just cannot tell the difference, but that is possible. And I mean, that's kind of the danger of it, right? Is like it for because I mean, like even with me making music, I feel like I'm cheating. I do. I feel like, but then it's like I don't have the time with coaching kids, podcasts, full-time job, trying to find time with friends and family. All this. I'm like, how do I find time to like write? How do I find time to record? How do I find? So it's like I'm taking a shortcut. So in a way, you feel cheating, but yet it's like if it's there, do I not use it? So from like Tony's perspective with comedy, have you like try to like help it write something and then maybe work off it? Alex, you too, like with art, have you messed around
Yeah.
with it at all? Or is it completely like, hey, you know what, we want to be authentic, organic. I feel like I'm cheating also if I use it. Like, what's
Oh
your
yeah. Yeah, well, I'll 100% cut corners. Getting the right model, the right position, the portrait, the things I want in a painting. So I'll put together pieces, I think, in images. So I'm just trying to construct the perfect assemblage of images and whatever means necessary to get to that point from A to B. I'm going to do that. So I will put a lot of those time devising those prompts to get that perfect image that I'm looking for, apply that to canvas, and then start bringing in some of the nuance and some of that critical thinking, that creative element to refine it and still give it some spontaneity, give it an artist touch, give it the commentary that I feel that it needs to imbue. So if it means promoting a certain idea about rights or authoritarianism or liberty or whatever it may be, I'm going to do that in post after I already have my model secured, and I'm going to put that to a canvas.
Yeah, it's really bad at writing jokes. I tried to test it out. I was like, many times I've tried to get it to write me a funny joke just from scratch, and it's just always like worse than your average sitcom, just horrible. Uh, so I'll like the best I can use it for is like um basically helping me find synonyms or definitions of words so I can try to come up with wordplay jokes, or like try to gather all the information on different creative processes from different books on comedy. And sometimes that can be useful. Um, but I don't know. Lately, I've tried to use AI for like a bunch of different things in my life, and it never. I I find that it never gets me where I need to be. It just sucks, and I got to do things from scratch to get it how I want it to be, anyways. So that might just be. I feel like I just got to learn how to use AI, but yeah, I don't know. It's pretty bad at writing jokes.
So can you use it to create some of your music, right? Your like Tony Pepperoni music.
That's true. Yeah, the AIs that make songs, I've made some just really stupid songs that are uh fun to listen to, but I wouldn't say that they're good songs. They're just kind of, but they are funny.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what would, for example, that like that's one of the things that it really is useful for. Like Courtney said, like if you're looking for music to use that's doesn't have copyrights, that's you're not going to get strikes on or get taken down. You
Yep.
can go to a music song generator, put in like you can even do a complete instrumental song or whatever, put in if you know enough about music where you can put in a description and start formatting like kind of what you're looking for and the feel and tone and tempo and all that stuff, you can get like create your own music for your own podcast, for your own movie if you're doing movies. I mean, I use Opus clips for my podcast clips, and I'm stunned by like just the capabilities of it. I mean, it gives me like 30 clips. It supposedly rates them by how viral they'll go. Obviously, none of mine have gone that viral. I mean, I've had a couple. The moon landing one with Bart Sabrell. Like after Bart was on Rogan, I clipped one of our conversation that we had years ago, and put it up. And on TikTok, that went a little viral. It got 4 or 5 thousand views or whatever. But it does, and it's amazing. You put on Opus Clips, it will make you find you like a pretty good clip, and you can work off that. But even Opus Clips, like as good as it is, it still requires a lot of creativity from our perspective, from us, from the user, to like, hey, maybe we can cut out this part, that part. Maybe it's too long. Maybe it's not that interesting. Maybe there's a better clip. The title, maybe I can change it. So it is a good starting point. I mean, it saves me plenty of time because I do hate listening to myself. So it's one of those things where like it'll go through a full, couple hour podcast and give you 30 clips. You can put in what type of topics you want to use or you're looking for or want to use for your clips. And then it even creates like B-roll, AI B-roll. So like if there's a certain part of the conversation of the clip you want to put some B-roll, you can just put something. It'll create a B-roll that's related to what you're talking about. So it's all these crazy things where you can basically create like a short movie in that short period of time. Everything from transitions, from one scene to another, to music, to all these things. It cleans up background noise. It does so many amazing things, and it's all in one piece of software. And it does seem like a lot of software now, like another thing that's kind of seems like the future of technology. A lot of stuff's online, right? It's not, you don't have to download a program anymore. Now it's like, before you had to download a program to use stuff. Opus AI is like you sign on to their website and everything's like literally, using their servers, their processing power, all that stuff on their website. You don't have to actually download anything, which is actually pretty cool. Same thing with like some of the music generators I've been using. I can sign up, which it's beneficial, but it also keeps me up at night. I can go onto it on my phone, sign in, and there's all my projects, and I can stay up. One of these nights, I think it was like Thursday or Friday, I was just like messing around with it, trying to like mess around with a part of a song I didn't like. And then, it's like midnight, then it's like 1 in the morning, and I'm still driving myself crazy. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna fix this before I go to bed. Next thing you know, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'm like, dude, what am I doing? I need some sleep. So it is, those things are fun. Tease, I know as a filmmaker, have you like started using it at all for anything, or are you still staying away from it and do you have some like old systems and that you enjoy using and you're comfortable with and haven't really jumped into the world of using AI for cutting corners?
I haven't actually used it personally. I have had it used in the large caches of footage that I'll download to do what I do. So it ends up in the project, basically. Like, even if it's not me using it, there'll be someone who's done some sort of like Jesus dinosaur riding AI engine clip that's just fucking perfect for whatever weird thing I need a clip for, and it'll end up finding its way in that way. So I've seen it creep in like that. But as far as like just the principled stance against it, I don't know. I kind of want to avoid using it just because we'll see how this plays out. For me, it's more of an issue about like the back end. It's like farted out of the technocratic occultist society shaping evil that is trying to throw us in the engine of its I don't know, most sinister machinations, and we're all just playing with its tools on the way. It's kind of like, I wonder if the thing that made it is the real problem, not it so much, or for that matter, the excuses that it can be used for. Like, oh, hey, the entire fucking country fucked up. Blame the AI. Let's replace government with AI. I mean, it's not like they're both just front guys for the falls that they can take. It's one of those things. For me, it's more just like a gradual, incremental process of moving out of it just being a simple box that we click in a large language model variant to something that is a death grip on what we can or cannot do at all. And the question is, at what point do we get our shit together on that road?
That's exactly it, man. It's the convenience factor. You got people like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, I had listened to him. I was a huge fan of his for many, many years. He was always talking about AI. We need AI. We need AI to make our laws and govern us. We need AI because humans are fallible. AI will make things so much better. AI constantly pushing this AI nonsense, and it's only going to make things worse for us. Yes, it's convenient. Yes, it makes things easier. But we are going to become even bigger slaves than we already are if we just continue to embrace this piece of shit technology, man.
Yeah, well, I mean that is the fear is that it's are we slowly accepting it into our lives, right? It's like it's slow baby steps where it's like, oh yeah, it's harmless. I'll just use it for this. But then it's like there's a lot of stuff we love creating that it does help with. And like I said, if it's music with for myself, if it's Alex, basically trying to cut or not cut corners, but like try to just cut the time it would take to get something done, he can just do it a little quicker using it. I mean, it's hard to say like, hey, do we not? But again, that's where. I mean, how is it any different than the first time there was like the paint program, right? Like, hey,
Right. Well, Ricky, if you're using it to peacefully overthrow the government, then it's cool. If you're using it for anything else, no. You got to peacefully overthrow the government that created the various different deep state infrastructure that's currently trying to murder you and your friends and family. Get rid of that problem, and then we can just like hang out and like make cool stuff with it, So.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean, I will say full disclosure, when I'm working in the studio, when I'm painting, I'm either taking breaks to read, the stuff that I love, or I'm listening to you guys. So the whole point is it depends as much on the inputs as it does the outputs. And I think that you can still have a clairvoyant frame of mind when you go into AI using that as a tool to expedite a certain task. But as long as you're not losing the step of what you came in to accomplish as a goal, I think it's totally fine.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Just to clarify my sarcasm, I just like it's the thing that's hidden in the background that's trying to kill us. That's the problem. Everything else about it is actually pretty cool. And it could be interesting if it doesn't make us dumber monkeys for just trying to use it as a tool,
100%.
So we'll see how that plays out.
You're right because it's no different than like again like I'm sure painters were pissed at graphic designers when it became a thing and said, hey, that's all fake, that's not real, you're using technology. And so it's like you can't technology is gonna make things from the past seem less or more organic, and it's gonna make new things and using technology seem less organic. But again, these tools get better and whatnot, that's not our. I feel like what we're talking about is like we're not really concerned about like, hey, using AI for whatever, making thumbnails, for making clips, for making for whatever it may be, for coming up with logos, right? You say, hey, give me a logo that looks like this, do this and this and that. How is it much different than like having an artist do it, right? I mean, I guess it's not. You're asking an artist to say, hey, can you do
For
something
the artist, it is.
What that?
For the artist, it's very different. Yeah, no,
Well,
but that's
no.
that. Yeah.
Well, unless that artist does the same, you pay him and then he just asks AI and then sends you
Right.
the same thing.
That's the future. That's the future of artists. It's like,
but
The ultimate con.
But I think what we're concerned about, just to kind of zoom out, is like we're not concerned about all these little cool things that we can do with it. What we're concerned about is the road that this is leading down, right? It's like the end result of all this progressing and progressing and progressing, and that's what we're kind of scared of. So it's like, yeah, there's tons of cool things you can do with AI. There's tons of shortcuts and time consuming things that AI will help you with. But the concern is like who's controlling it, who's programming it, their understanding of human manipulation and psychology and how they can use this very strong tool that eventually just about everybody will be using in some way or another, use it to sway us in one direction or another, or change the way we look at things. And it just that's the part that is scary. And then again, and then I almost feel guilty because I feel like in some little way I'm participating in in this normalizing of AI in our lives, because I mean I've used it. I've used Gemini to fix things around the house. Like there'll be a part that I'm like, okay, I think I know how to fix this, but I don't even know what this part's called. And I'll point my phone at it, turn on the what they call live Gemini. So you talk to it like it's a person, and the camera's on, and it'll tell you what you're looking at. It'll tell you, you can talk to it like, hey, what's like pretend it's a plumbing issue, right? You could talk to it like it's a real plumber, and you'd be like, hey, what's this issue? How do I fix this? And they're like, oh, that's called a blah blah blah. You can get it at blah blah blah. Like, oh, okay, now I don't have to pay a plumber. Like, I just figured out how to fix this with my personal assistant Gemini. So it's like,
Oh, it's not an Indian assistant if it's a plumbing issue.
Yeah.
but so
Oh, from the top rope. That was great.
And when we brought up,
Let's wrap it up and make sure everybody gets a chance to plug their stuff. My fear isn't telling AI what to do. My fear is when AI is telling me what to do. I think that's really kind of the as long as I'm in charge, bossing it around, telling it to do this and that, write me this or do a synopsis on this. It's a little when it's giving me suggestions or ideas on what, I don't know. I'm skeptical, but I think that's my job. Wheezy, let's start with you, man. Where can people find you? What is Truth Podcast? What are you working on? What do you have cooking in the next couple of months?
Well, I was told by some of my friends, hey, you should appeal your YouTube ban. A lot of us are getting our channels back. I appealed, and I was told that I am permanently banned. So I will not be one of these guys that will get my original channel back, unfortunately. But you can find me everywhere else. You can find me on your favorite podcast player. I'm on Rumble. I don't know how long I'll be Rumble. I've been talking lots of mad shit, and Rumble is just the right-wing version of YouTube. So I'm sure
you're not missing any ad money. I can assure you. Jesus
Oh,
Christ,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
impossible to make any money on that place.
Yeah, don't make nothing. Odyssey is probably where I encourage people, but it's clunky as hell, man. But I tell my listeners, if I ever get banned everywhere else, you should still be able to find me on Odyssey.
They don't mess
as far
with
as
you.
yeah. As far as what I'm working on, me and my boy 7Cs, we developed a very friendly relationship. He's watching right now. Shout out to my boy 7Cs right now. We've been chatting this whole time. But him and I've been getting close, and we've been doing lots of shows. A lot of our listeners, both of our listeners, love us going back and forth, and so we try to do one show a month at least. And we've been uncovering a lot of these what we call psyop influencers. Some of the stuff we touched on earlier.
Yeah,
and
man.
so yeah, we're probably not making a lot of fans doing that, but my show is called What is Truth, and that's what we try to do. And thank you guys for inviting me. I thought after last time I was on here, I was permanently banned. So thank you guys for bringing me back.
No, not at all. Alex, what about you? Where what are you working on? Where can people support your paintings? Can people buy your stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good. Where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, check out my Instagram, direct message me, or shoot me an email. Either way, through the submission form there on Instagram, you can reach me. AB Raniello. I'm also doing a few different podcast spots. I got a sports talk show with my buddies, Yards After the Catch, just a little fun shooting the shit that we do like we do at the bar. And I do also the co-host of my friend's show, Pardon Will Podcast. It's a libertarian show, culture war. We just kind of shoot the shit every Sunday night. You guys should check it out. It's a fun hang.
Alex,
fantastic.
Send me those links. I'll put them in the show description.
For sure. And it's great talking to all you guys.
Good to see you again, Alex. Tony, what about you? You're around Austin performing. Do you have anything on the calendar that people can go check you out?
Yeah. You can find where I'm going to be at Tony Pepperoni Comedy on Instagram, also on YouTube, and then merch.tonypepperoni.com to get a t-shirt. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks
we're
for
gonna
having me.
be doing. You're gonna be doing some any stand up coming up this weekend, next weekend. You got any plans, Tony?
Um, no giant plans. I'm going to be in Houston in December. And shows kind of pop up kind of about a week or a month out. So probably we'll have some other stuff outside of Austin as well coming up.
So
Cool.
keep up with your dates by following you on the socials. I'm sure you'll promote it there.
Yeah. I post all the shows I'm going to be on Instagram. So it's usually once a show every 1 or 2 weeks there. And yeah, I'll post it on Instagram. You can follow it there. I gotta start a Rumble account here soon, but we'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
and let me encourage people, if you have not seen Tony Pepperoni's set and interview on Kill Tony, just go on YouTube, look up Tony Pepperoni Kill Tony, and be ready to laugh your ass off because it like I laughed so hard. I actually have a hard time hearing Tony talk normal without laughing because I still think of his stand up and I just think, he just obviously some of himself comes out in his character. So it's like, it's just, it's hilarious. It's highly recommend. And I love seeing up and coming comedians. And it was cool to be able to meet him and talk to him and talk to him before he blows up. So just remember, Tony, when you get big, still come on the show.
Yeah, we knew you first, Tony.
And show some love to the Northeast. Come up and show your set.
Absolutely.
T. Snyder, Conspiracy Synergy, in the middle of editing. Edit hell? Is it hell? Or are you enjoying it secretly? You like the punishment.
No, God, no. It's arduous, laborious, excruciating, and it'll be another week or so until the Passio podcast, or sorry, Passio documentary is out. And I've been
Nice.
working on that the last 2 months. So for anyone who hasn't seen the Conspiracy Synergy documentaries yet, they're a great way to get your friends and family up to speed about the reality of the conspiracy that has been going on for a really long time. And it's a great resource to do that because it isn't just about the issues, it's about the people presenting the issues. Last person who had one of these documentaries on them was Charlie Robinson. Oh my God, he's amazing. If you haven't watched his documentary yet, please check it out at conspiracysynergy.com. I also co-host AM Wake Up on Wednesdays with Steve McQueenan, and that's another way to check us out. So that's on Rumble, AM Wake Up, and conspiracysynergy.com for the things that you need to see and pass on to your friends and family. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being here. It's always good to see you, Tease. I want to mention some people who dropped off earlier. Graham Dunlop from Grimerica. Go to adultbrain.ca, get their audiobooks. Get my audiobooks. The voices are Darren and Graham from Grimerica. So go check them out. Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown was here. Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media. We had Courtney Turner. Her Substack is bananas. Go check it out. It's great. She's got a new book coming out with Patrick Wood from technocracy.news. And Chuck Ocelli from the Ocelli Effect was here as well. Sam Tripoli is out. He was in Austin. I don't know where he is next. He's always on the road. Go catch Tinfoil Hat and go catch Sam live in person, midnight. Mike was nice enough to have me on guest host OBDM on Saturday, which is a treat for me because OBDM is the funniest podcast in the world. Our Big Dumb Mouth, for those of you who don't know. Check it out. Mike is on assignment, getting to the bottom of the UFO files, reporting back later, I think. Is that right, Ricky? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Just say yes. Okay. Ricky, what are you doing? What episodes do you have coming out? What's in the can that you're working on?
Well, if you guys want to learn more about Tony, he was on the Ripple Effect podcast not so long ago. Check that out. We get a little deeper into how he got in comedy, his inspirations, his writing style, and how he writes and whatnot. So check that out. I think Brian Festa coming up, and I got some other people. I'm like Tease. I'm so sick of editing right now. Like I've been working on this music, and I mean the tedious parts that you just spend so much time trying to perfect one little thing that drives you crazy and just hours of your day go by. I actually heard my wife when she got home, she said to my daughter, she's like, you haven't taken a bath yet? She's like, no, Dad's been downstairs all day. And I'm like, yes. And if they only knew, like, I've been downstairs, like, trying to edit, like, one little verse, one little part. Like, I'm almost ashamed to say how long it has taken to, like, just get one little thing right. I mean, it's similar to writing, right? Like, Tony and others who write, like, you could spend all day on one joke, one little joke, one little punchline, and it could just consume your life. But I think that's, that obsession with our art is why we do what we do. But long story short, you can just recently, actually this weekend, 4 new songs, Theory 6 songs came out. Theory 6 is my solo music project. It's something that I started doing after a band I was in my whole life broke up, and then this song, The Ripple Effect, inspired the podcast. It's the theme song to the podcast, and so it's just been something that's kind of been neglected and put on the back burner for a while, and kind of forgot about because I just haven't had the time to do it. And I've been so in love with podcasting and meeting all the amazing people that I've met throughout my podcast journey, like the people who are on today. And but I have been inspired again by artificial intelligence, who's trying to get me to accept it into my life, and by messing around with music generators and just finding how much time consuming things can be cut down to 1% of that time. And really, it's been kind of fun. It really has been fun to be creative again with music. I'm really proud of the songs I got out. Like I said, Theory 6 Music, it's available on Pandora, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere you can get music, you can find it. And I'm sure there's more tracks coming. And like I said, I've been working on one recently. And then also the rippleeffectpodcast.com is where you can find all my work. Union of Unwanted, Theory 6, Ripple Effect Podcast, and much more. So check that all out. And I think that's it for now.
Macroaggressions.io. Catch my podcast with. I'm recording tomorrow with friend of the show, Dr. Jessica Rose. So excited for that. So we're gonna get into vaccines, I'm sure, all this stuff. I got my YouTube channel back. What do you know? Almost 7,000 subscribers. I have Matt Raymer from Content Safe working on the videos, running them through some sort of, I don't know, washer, thought police, I don't know, bleeper, something that's going to make it a little bit more sanitized for YouTube. And then we're going to be slowly putting them back up. So we'll see. I give that, I don't know. I give it a month. We'll see. But I'm going to try because the point is we got to reach people wherever they are. And if they're on YouTube, God damn it, we'll get them there. But I would say go to activistpost.com. Make sure you're bookmarking that. Get your news over there. Fantastic articles every day from brave and outstanding journalists. That's about it. Thanks to everybody who listened to Macroaggressions. Just hit 10 million downloads. That was a big deal. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
To everybody. Thank you guys.
That's awesome.
I was pretty sure I was talking to myself, and I'm sure I was for a long, long, long time. But eventually we turned it around and people started listening. So thank you. I wish every download was $1, but it ain't. So whatever.
I still have one of your episodes living rent free in my head. Where did all the people go? It just killed.
That's the best. The number one episode I ever did. Yeah, that one flipped out, man. That one was wild.
That fucking freaked me out.
Yeah, that one kind of freaked me out too. And you know what the funny part is about that was that I recorded it and then I said, I don't know if I want to put it out. And I asked Tony Merkel, I don't know if I should put it out. And he said, well, let me listen to it and then I'll tell you. And so he listened to it and he messaged me. He goes, you have to put that out. And I was like, okay. But I really almost considered not doing it. I thought it was too dark. That was before black pilled was a term.
Yeah.
And that was, people were going to go, oh, this guy's just fucking giving up. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, that was a wild episode.
We still got 2 months. So.
Yeah, exactly.
By any chance, you know the number of that episode, just in case people want to?
No, it's in the 200s. It's called Where Did All the People Go? It's where I compared the SPARS pandemic document with the International Red Cross vaccine numbers and all these population rates in Africa and shit like that. And they lined up in a really, really alarming, scary kind of way. with Deagle and spars and all that shit, man. It was the type of episode that you just feel awful after you listen to. You're just like, that's not good. Like, that can't be good.
Episode 258.
258. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Thanks, Al.
That's about halfway. Thank you very much for saying that. Thanks, everybody. Hey, if you like this show, Union of the Unwanted, if you like any of the shows from that you're listening to, we found the Achilles heel. And since we're speaking of technocracy and all this shit, rate the shows, subscribe to them, and do all that stuff. It seems like a nothing kind of thing, but apparently it really matters. So please and thank you for all the shows that you like, all your podcasts. Just go in there real quick and give them all 5 stars and do all that nonsense that we have to do, because we're going to play this game to win it. God damn it. Right, Ricky?
Yeah, Mamma Mia. Let's
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
see you guys. Have a great night. Thanks for showing
Thank
up.
you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.